All right, we're live. Welcome everyone to Table Talk, where you talk all things tabletop. I'm your host, the Bad Luck Gamer, with my co-host Glue Boy.
Hello, hello.
And today we're probably going to be talking about a somewhat controversial topic. We're going to be talking about some of the running up to, right. I guess. We're live. Welcome everyone to Table. There you go. Sorry, didn't have the audio on. We're going to be talking about some of the running ups to both Pathfinder Player Core 2 and to D&D 2024, because I've been noticing an interesting trends between the two, especially since Paizo's been releasing blogs about each of the classes as we get closer and closer to Player Core 2. So I just figured it'd be an interesting discussion. Also talking about some of the other D&D content creators that I feel like are bracing themselves for 2024's release, which is also interesting. So we'll get to that, but as we do, as is tradition, we'll get there at about the 25-minute range somewhere. So if you're watching this after the fact, or if you're catching up, you can just skip to the 20-25-minute range. We'll be talking about it. But first, some small talk. So Alex, what have you been up to?
Still the same thing, since I've been just not making videos, which will change, because today I will be recording stuff, and I will put something out more than likely in the next couple days. Finally, a vampire video. So I will have something out. Mainly because vampire content isn't like crazy complicated. So it's not going to take me like that long to, edit and put everything together. But I've just been doing my best to crunch through Elden Ring. Like, my man, it's so fun to play through Elden Ring again.
Yeah.
Like, fully. God. I'm so far away from the actual game itself too, like the DLC.
The DLC, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like haven't even gotten into the main city in the Altus Plateau. Like, there's so many bosses where I'm like fighting them again. It's like, I remember struggling with this one.
Right.
And then I can't wait to get to the actual DLC and struggle. Ugh. Especially with all the people I keep seeing online upset, apparently, that the DLC is difficult, which is wild for me as someone who's been a long time like Souls fan, which I assume you're in a similar boat, seeing people complain that it's too hard. Which, like, what?
Well, and everyone's just been ignoring literally everything Miyazaki has been saying that's supposed to help them learn the game or get better at the DLC. Because it has essentially a different leveling system based on finding the blessings. So
yeah, it's got like those shards.
It's like, okay, so they had to patch it, make it a little bit easier, and more blatantly tell people, find the blessings, please explore.
People were rushing the main bosses, dying, and then being like, why is this so hard?
Why is this hard? I don't understand. My build is
almost
broken.
Like the map is huge, and you should explore it. Then they'd go through, beat the 4 bosses, like there's like 5 or 6 main bosses, and then go through it and be like, wow, the DLC was so short. I spent $40 for this. So they'd be upset at either way.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's goofy.
It's goofy, but honestly, I think it's just this trend of literally someone on Twitter says something and a bunch of people latch onto it, and then it's big news. Like,
yeah,
you just get this hive mind effect everywhere when Twitter is involved. So it's like, what can you do?
The old hive mind used to be just pure get good at any criticism towards a Souls game. Which, like, I don't know which one I prefer. Like, any even good-natured, like, criticism toward a Souls game being met with a "you're just bad, get good," or people fundamentally ignoring game mechanics and then complaining when it's hard. I don't know which one I prefer.
Honestly, it's a little rough. I've been wanting to, but man, I've been just busy. My family has been in town. My sister is in from Norway, and then just yesterday we went to the wedding venue to go check it out, and we've finalized what wedding venue we're gonna use. We just gotta finish signing the paperwork. Very excited for that. So in a year we'll be married finally.
Nice.
Strange that we'll have a child in between then and now. It's also bizarre because we're talking about prepping for the wedding, and then the talk of the baby comes in, and I'm just like, yeah, we'll have some. It's weird talking about someone who's about to be super important in my life, like one of the most important things, and not know anything about them yet, and just talking about them like they're going to be there in a year from now is so bizarre.
Yeah, I can imagine. I've never thought about it like that. That's a weird thought to parse,
Yeah,
honestly.
honestly, it's hard for me to accurately describe it, but it's just like, oh yeah, we'll have a baby. I'm sure my mom can look after it, and it's just like it feels weird to talk about it so almost impersonally because I've never seen the baby, other than like the
Yeah.
ultrasound, and so it's just like they're going to be my whole world then, and my feelings are going to be very different then from now. But right now, it's just like, yeah, our child, my firstborn, is going to be there, and it's like I'm not even excited about it because it's like I don't know, I don't know. So yeah, and
It
then
is crazy too, like the stuff about that, where it is literally like it's one of the few times, interesting enough, it's something I'm genuinely fascinated by, where having a kid is like you won't understand until you have a kid is one of the things that's like scientifically kind of true
right,
because it legitimately rewires your brain, and part of your brain does change when a kid like comes into it,
yeah,
because like parts of your brain are just enlarged when you have a kid. It's wild. And so man, it's fucking weird, and it's gonna be weird too, just it's such a shakeup, just gonna like see how everything's kind of gonna move, but it is life.
yeah,
It's kind of at this stage for a lot of people.
yeah, and especially for all of my friends who I'm sure just like it's weird the thought of any one of us having a child, and now
We do
that's
have a
just
lot of people that are very like anti-kids.
as I wouldn't say anti-kid, it's just young. Well, a lot of you are
Young.
young.
That's true. Yeah, there's a subsect of people in our friend group that are not gonna have kids, that I know is part of it. And then there's also a lot of us that are young.
Yeah,
Give it like
because
5 years.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's gonna change eventually, but that's just what happens when most of my friends are like 9 years younger than me. So
Yeah.
at least I don't look it. That's the thing. Whenever I tell people my age on the internet, they're like, "You are not 30." It's like good. Hopefully it stays that way for a
Yeah.
while. Uh, but yeah, so that's been what's on my end. I've also been trying to at least get 3 videos out a week so I can have a little bit of Pathfinder, a little bit of Lancer, and a little bit of Fabula Ultima. Because everyone's really loving the Fabula Ultima content, and I feel like as soon as I get like all the core classes down, the videos will start doing a lot better because people will be able to binge a lot more on the channel. But
Yeah.
I do want to do more than 3 videos a week. I've just been busy, and also my sleeping schedule has been borked. I don't even know what happened last night. My video came out so late today only because I slept 12 hours.
I genuinely, whenever, I can't imagine sleeping that long. That's all. I just, my body won't let me. So it's just,
Normally
can't
the
imagine.
same. So I don't know. I just must have had really terrible sleep quality. The dream I had was wild though. But too much to get into for just our talk today. Also, like I've been doing more studying, and I've been trying to figure out. I tried some new stuff with the Lancer video today, so I hope that starts to yield some results. But I want to improve the overall watchability, and like not just watchability, but how fondly people remember my videos. Veritasium put out like a video talking mostly about like the recency bias people have and some other stuff in it, and I'm just like, you know what, I should incorporate some of this into my video production. And so it's just like making it like, it doesn't matter how long your video is, doesn't make it more or less enjoyable. It just depends on, you can have a bomb ass video, but if the last 3 minutes of it are really bad, people are going to call it a bad video.
Yeah, you gotta have like, it's gotta be all of a consistent quality, and even just like a small portion of it that people can like circulate and dunk on. People will remember it for that small part that they can dunk on.
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot. Because
It,
even like the length of something, you can make a really good like long video. Because I mean, it's the H bomber guy shit with the plagiarism video. It like went around. It was crazy because it was a fantastic video. Like it was so well done.
mhm.
And it's great. There's like not a lot that you can actually like really rip apart about it. It is just well done and very good. But then yeah, there's other videos where you look at and you're just, man, surrounded. There's a lot of great parts. Then there's like 10 minutes of this. Like, why'd you do that?
Yeah. Also, I've been learning that, man, people really don't care if you thoroughly explain everything. People just want like the high notes of everything that you talk about.
Yep.
So
That's why I approach things the way I do.
it's like, so it makes me talk less about the rules overall, which makes my videos shorter, which makes them more clickable. And then in addition to that, the video is just focused on mostly positives. And if there is a negative, that negative is heightened to make it stand out more, so that people are just like, yeah, that's actually really bad. And then not like meander around that point.
Yeah. I have a similar mentality because I only feel like I only bring up like negatives or criticism to things when I feel like it's really pertinent or brings something to the table. Because I see it a lot of times where I feel like sometimes creators nitpick for reasons that aren't really constructive. It's just kind of to talk more. And I'm not a fan of that. And it's one of the things that I kind of rip about, and I've ripped about on this stream multiple times, where I get annoyed about just bad critique and bad construction of it. It's you got to have purpose when it goes into it. Because funny enough, in my next Trench Crusade video, I am actually going to levy my main criticism towards Trench Crusade. I can say it here. I really don't like how they're releasing updates to their game, which is, it is all locked in their Discord, and if you are looking at it from the outside, it looks like they released one and done like rules and then nothing else.
Yeah.
So I because I've gotten a good number of comments of people who have been burned by Kickstarter scams and games that are just go nowhere, and people who like come at it from that angle and are like, I've had horrible experiences in the past. This looks cool, but that's all this is. This is just art. And it's like, no. There's a whole thing here. There's a lot of rules, and it's been updated like four, like more than that. It's like 4 point something. Like it's been updated a lot. We also have a bunch of new units, like new rules being dropped, art being dropped. We got a new unit like a couple days ago. A new like Plague Knight. And it's sick. But you wouldn't know this unless you're in the Discord. If you're on the Twitter, all you see is a cool new knight. You're like, new art. That's all you see. So that's my critique of Trench Crusade, is just, if you're not in the Discord, it looks like they're not doing anything. And you look at it and you're just like, how do I know that this is a legit game that's going to actually follow through with anything? And there's no guarantee. And I feel like they need to be a bit more upfront with their rules updates, because that's like, the promise that they'll follow through.
Right. You know what? This gives me a really good idea for a video I think I want to do now, called Discord is Ruining TTRPGs.
I really don't like how Discord like has changed how things release. So I agree.
Because legitimately recently I've been running into a similar situation. I was doing a Fabula Ultimate video, and the first class I did was the first one in the book, which is Arcanist. And then I got comments in the video like, oh, they're not even talking about the real Arcanist. And I'm like, what do you mean? I looked at the website, I bought the book, I looked at the FAQs are on their website. What do you mean? And it's not actually an update. It's a playtest that's currently going through that people are like, oh, this is so much better. This is just new Arcanist. But two, I would have to go in and look it up in the Discord. And then also, like, it translates to Lancer as well. Because I've had some complaints about how the wording in Lancer is sometimes, where it's like, I don't know what this rule is implying. The wording here is a little vague. And then people are like, oh, actually, if you just ask the question on the Discord, people will answer it for you. They've already talked about it, like, on the Discord or whatever. And it's like, so, it's just like, why don't you just do your research? And it's just like, so I have to comb through the Discord whenever I do any video on anything to look up a specific ruling that may or may not have come from someone from the company.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that. That part makes me even more mad about it. So like that's dumber, because researching through Discord is so fucking hard. Like it's difficult. You have to search by specific words that people are posting, or you have to ask it yourself, and then who knows, run the gambit of people being weird and annoying about it, being like, this has already been asked before, stuff like that, which I've had before with other community servers. Also, I'm a perpetual hater of community servers. I just don't like being in them, like, at all. They're something I lurk in to stay on releases, but like it's like, if you have a PDF and everything on your rules is being ran through PDFs, if that is an issue that's being pointed out by your community, then you can update the PDF. But the main issue, I think, at hand is something that also comes in through video game modding and good old just video game stuff that you also have to deal with when you're in fan games or any form like that. It's Discord has cheap file hosting, because it costs nothing.
Yeah.
Unless you have Discord Nitro. But it costs next to nothing to file host. And so that's the problem. But it also then has the problem where when Discord goes belly up, we are losing a stupid amount of information.
Right.
Like, it's going to be catastrophic when Discord's just imploded. I don't like it, but there's a lot of great projects that are just confined in Discord servers, and I'm not a fan. I don't like that release thing, and it's even more annoying when it's a TTRPG like you're mentioning, because it's even easier because it's a fucking PDF, and PDFs are like a couple megabytes, and that's literally costs nothing. It is a PDF file. Every single web page can host that. It is nothing. God.
Yeah, I think that's a banger video idea. I think Discord's ruining gaming, I think, would be better, but that's a little bit outside my wheelhouse.
It's just modding stuff, and it's the one I had to come across was the fact that there's a really good Stalker mod called Stalker Gamma that is very fun, but it's only on Discord.
Yeah.
Which, granted, it's because the file is so large that the main file, like Mediafire, that you could download it off of, would take so long. So it's convenience sake. But it also means that if the Discord server for some reason is gone, you can't get them on anymore.
Yep.
Which is annoying. But yeah, Discord does a lot of good things. Like, I think it does good to like unite communities and like have good communication with people and like make friends, and like also it's just better for us, like, as big group chats and hangout rooms. It's really nice, but I don't like it as information sharing and then assuming that everybody is in Discords, because no, I don't want to be. I joined the Trench Crusade Discord to see what the company was doing. I don't care that much about what everyone else is up to.
Right.
I'll poke through the models, like the art, because I'm like, I want to see what good painters are doing. Everything else, I don't really care. I'm not there for community. I don't really talk to randos online. I'm not looking for that.
Yeah, I hate when you're trying to sign up for something or you're trying to like, ooh, this looks good. And then it's just like, all right, you've signed up. You'll get an email whenever things come out and join our Discord. Or you wanna see what's coming out, see our Discord for all updates. And it's just like, I don't wanna be in a million Discords. Like, I made a Discord so that people who enjoy our stuff can get together, start games up, or we can do community events or whatever, and people can join to get news as things come out or to participate in that or not. You can still find my content regardless if you're in my Discord or not. So, like, I feel like it's good for so many things, but in the TTRPG space, it feels extra cumbersome to look into your favorite games now because it's all in the Discord. And it's also just Discord. It's not like you can easily find information on Discord like you could on a forum, for instance.
Yeah, it's harder because you have to poke through random other people talking, which is the
Yeah.
part that makes it hard to find the official lore stuff that is talked about in the Trench Crusade Discord, for example, because like I know there's official lore drops, but then it's intermixed with people talking about it and then talking about stuff that's outside of it. So I have to like find it is the problem.
Yeah, and then when you make a hub of like, why is there no site for this? Everyone's just like, you should already know about it if you're in Trench Crusade. They there's all this tribalism that comes with it as well. But uh
Yeah,
actually,
I like forums because they're Googleable. Like
yeah,
exactly. That's the nice thing about forums. But like I also say that as someone who never used forums as like a forum poster. I liked forums because they were good for other people giving me information.
right.
That was the use of them. I view forums the same way I view Discord servers. Something I will look at, I will not interact with because I don't want to talk to people like that.
So, I think that's a good video. I think that's something I'll put on the work block for hopefully when I have some time, which time is running out very quickly because Player Core 2 is on the horizon. But let's talk about today's subject. Player Core 2 versus D&D 2024. So, the main reason why I selected this topic is, one, if you're now tuning in, there is an interesting similarity between how Pathfinder's like, they're releasing some class stuff, they're releasing little tidbits for us to kind of to snack on while we're waiting for Player Core 2. But D&D has also been releasing little bits here and there for their big release coming in 2024. And I'll say it's very interesting the similarities and differences between how the two companies have been doing this. But I legitimately, as far as the Pathfinder community is concerned, each of these little bites are mostly people being like, yes, finally, or this sounds really cool, or something along those lines. Maybe someone doesn't like a feat or in particular, but whatever, it's not like everyone. There's not many mandatory feats in Pathfinder. I would say there are some for some classes, but not many. In D&D, I feel like the D&D community sees more and more information, and they get hyper defensive. Have you noticed this on Twitter at all?
I've only seen, honestly, maybe it's because of where I'm stuck in Pathfinder Twitter. I've only noticed people criticizing the new stuff, and I've only then noticed D&D people popping into my feed because they're criticizing the rules with like, hey, I like 5e, but this is too far from the company. I don't like these changes. I've not noticed this. At least not in person.
There's been some very interesting things where recently I'm seeing more and more posts of D&D content creators or D&D Twitter content creators, if you can call them that, to be like, whoa, now, like, I just enjoy D&D, okay? I thoroughly enjoy the game I built around this, and just let me have a good time. That's it. Just let me have a good time. You know? That's... None of them are overly hyping up some of the new stuff. Some of them are, in some places. There's no overarching general rules here. But a lot of them are, like... I've been seeing many content creators just be like, just let me enjoy my game. That's it. And it's weirdly defensive. And I know the D&D community for the longest time has had it real rough because, one, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, shitty companies, just do really shitty things. It seems like they intentionally are trying to hurt their own, like, image, which is crazy. And then everyone and their mother telling D&D players, play other games. Play other games. And, well, yeah, sure, they should not be completely tied to one game. You know, they should try other games. It is really lame when you want to talk about a game you really enjoy and other people cannot help themselves but jump in down your throat saying, try another game. Try another game. You know, I get that. It's very unfun.
It gets annoying after a while. Like, it is, like, I get the intention behind it, especially people who might have, like, made that jump, and they mean it from the intentions of, trust me, I've been burned, it's so much better, but it does get annoying. But, yeah.
And I know Blaine Simple in D&D Shorts have been making videos recently about just, you know, just playing the game, liking the game, or whatever. But I listened to those videos in particular, and legitimately, it just mostly sounds like cope half the time. They don't have good arguments for why they shouldn't play D&D, or why they choose not. They don't have good arguments against the accusations most of the time. They just say, this is just the game I enjoy. Just let me play my game. I don't know why everyone has to make it a big deal about it, you know, which is fair. I think most reasonable people, and we've said it here before as well, if you like D&D, that's fine. Enjoy the games you want to enjoy, you know.
Like, inherently, you can just enjoy the thing you want to enjoy, but it's the part of, it's really weird that it's kind of consistent with, like, a lot of people in a community, is the part where it's like, that's where the eyebrow is raised, because the adage of, like, I enjoy this thing, and I enjoy it because I enjoy it, is kind of like the bit where you, after a while, you're like, you're saying this a lot.
Yeah.
As someone who also just enjoys a lot of things that I can fully admit, are not the greatest. Are, like, not objectively good, but I enjoy them for many other reasons that I can justify, by the way, like, fully, while criticizing on the other hand. You can do both. That's a perfectly understandable, like, thing you can do, especially once you learn the language of how to critique things, because that is a skill you learn.
Yeah.
You don't just say that over and over and over again because it sounds defensive.
Right.
It's like, I don't know.
It sounds like they don't have a good reason, and they're just being stubborn.
Yeah. Which, I don't know. The real defense is just not affirming it constantly.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you just like, if someone really came up to you and asked you, is where that statement I think is warranted. Unprompted statement of, I like D&D. and I like it because I like it. So that's like, oh, you made a whole video about that?
Yeah, you made a 24-minute video saying just that one phrase, but like in more detail. And I want to see if I can find, yeah, just some of the posts for comparison's sake, because I was a stubborn 5e player once, then the OGL then I took an OGL to the knee. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is I feel like the D&D community is in legitimately a pretty bad place. And I do have a lot of sympathy for it. Because I legitimately have an experience in D&D that trumps most of my experiences in Pathfinder. I thoroughly enjoyed playing my evil wizard in our Out of the Abyss campaign. And I have lots of really fun moments from that. And a lot of that was because of D&D. So, and in comparison, I love Pathfinder way, way more, but I definitely not had the same level of enjoyment in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, even though I enjoy it as a whole way more often, you know? Like, I have one high in D&D I've yet to meet in Pathfinder, but if you look at the overall level of enjoyment, the average is way, way higher in Pathfinder. And that's the thing that I think really gets in the way of a lot of these people, and legitimately makes me think that, like, Blaine Simple, he said he tried some other games and just didn't like it. It's like, you tried. What does that mean? You did a one-shot and didn't like how the mechanics worked? Did you play a few sessions? Like, what's try? Because here on our channel, I went away from doing one-shots because I felt like a lot of people were saying it was just not a good way to look at any tabletop game, and we started playing 10 to 15 sessions for most games. And I feel like by 10 sessions is when you really understand like what a game has to offer and what fun it has to bring. Not always, but usually. And that's what I would consider like trying a game, even though I know that's asking a lot from a game system. But the problem is you have to learn it, right? And your perception will change based on understanding the thing, you know? So it's something where I feel like these people were could have been forced to play, could have tried a one shot, and then they're just like, man, this 4-hour period does not match my expectation that I got from years of playing D&D. So I just went back to D&D.
Or yeah, I'm curious what their experience could have been too, because like there also could have been, you know, maybe just GM experience.
Yeah,
could have contributed as well.
yeah, which
If the
is a huge
GM
part.
is not as good at a game, you know, it's gonna make it a little harder to fully get into it if everyone's like not fully there. Because like I think you can get into a game or like understand it in just like if it's a really solid one shot, sure. If everyone is learning it for the first time, maybe give it a couple. But like, you know, yeah, it's like a give and take on multiple sides. Mainly, I think the level of investment needs to be a full chance for on all sides of the table to try to like really learn how everything kind of works and see if it's a game you enjoy. But also,
Yeah.
then there's the other side of it where some people just don't like other things, or then all, or more really, don't want to like other things.
Yeah.
They like their one thing, and then they just, you know, that's kind of the identity, and so they don't want to work around other stuff.
Right. Yeah. And you know what, I will say the D&D Shorts content creator guy, he said he played other games and he liked them a lot, you know? And that's a big thing as well. A lot of D&D content creators have played Pathfinder and have really enjoyed it. And for some of them, I feel like they felt threatened by that experience and how to justify their love for D&D instead. Like Mr. Rex is a really good example of, he came in, he liked playing the game, but then he felt the exact need to make a comparison video and hone in and hyper focus on scrutinizing Pathfinder. And then when it came to D&D, he just hand waved it and it's just like, D&D, you can just do things. But in Pathfinder, a level 1 goblin can't fit possibly hurt, which is not true, a level 15 adventurer while they're sleeping, you know. Which is like a very weird thing and is not related to the experience at all, because one, how often is a GM trying to threaten a high level character with a low level character, even in D&D, first of all. And there's some other really bad examples and a lot of stuff, whatever. I made a video on that. You can watch that video. But it happens a lot. A lot of D&D people go try out Pathfinder a bit and they're like, oh man, I'm actually kind of having fun with this. And then suddenly are just like, but wait, D&D is still a good game, guys, all right? Here's what's wrong with Pathfinder, all right? Pathfinder's not as good as everyone says it is. So don't let them, yeah. And also, hi, James. Yeah, we just got started, more or less, so don't worry. Can a 5e goblin do that? What is it going to do? 5% damage? Not even most of the time at certain levels. Which is kind of the point. It's just like, so a goblin could stab my character all night, getting crits every time. And it would take like 10 minutes for them to kill my character because of HP bloat.
Weird point that I remember that in that video, because there's a couple of weird points in the Mr. X video where it was just, what are you trying to say with that? Or like, why is that a critique? Because that one was a weird one of like, because that literally that thought of in D&D, why are you trying to do that? Because like, why would you throw a bunch of like really low level goblins at a bunch of really high level adventurers, and then be like, haha, but if you know statistically, because they can nat 20, this still could do something. Granted, not a lot, but it could do something. And that's not because in games, you know, you have enemies at level scale. It's crazy. But it doesn't matter. Like, it's just, yeah, it's literally like, exactly, James. What's the point in the story? Why are you doing that? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
The one that also still lives in my head rent free is the weird point about like I forget the exact wording of it, but it was, because it was a while ago, but it was Mr. Rex hating the idea of non-divine healing, but also loving that what D&D had non-type fitting like build options.
Yeah, so the example he used was, if I want to play a wizard who uses a sword, I can build that way in D&D if I really want to. And then later in the video, he says, a barbarian can be a healer. I really don't like that. It's like...
That's literally the same thing. You just don't like it because it's in a different game.
Yeah. I also don't like his dragon example of a bunch of level 1 people in D&D could kill a dragon if they do all this setup and do all these kinds of things or whatever. And it's just like, technically you can just do that in Pathfinder as well. Because the setup that you're talking about in D&D can't be just whatever their kits are or whatever. Because that just doesn't work. Also, a bunch of level 1s really would struggle anyway, because one breath attack from the dragon will just kill them. So, yeah, I don't know. But this is the thing that I feel like D&D 2024 is supposed to be. What exactly? What is the point?
It just feels like a bunch of erratas, and then like basically a big remaster is like all it really feels like.
And it's like they're trying to balance the game. The point's money. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Which is silly because it's just like they didn't want to make a new edition because they would fear it wouldn't make money. But they're making a new game that can't be just an add-on. Like, what's the point? It can't just enhance D&D 5e because they just literally changed how some of the classes work. It's not an add-on. You're paying for the errata, yeah.
Yeah, literally.
It's ridiculous. And
yeah,
all they've been doing is taking away some of the parts that players actually enjoy in D&D. The funny, goofy parts, like Paladins just being able to smite whenever they would roll a crit. Now it's a bonus action and an action technically together.
Yeah, because like you can still do it when you damage, because the trigger is when you deal damage, you can then spend a bonus action to smite. The problem is I just hate that idea so much. It's just you can have the thing be like, well, you can only do it once per combat round. It's like, fair enough. Okay, that's fair enough. Making it a bonus action, all you're doing is severely limiting how every single paladin player is going to play their paladin, and you are making a horde of unfun paladin players because you are now making the DPS class a lot more locked into DPS. That is all you are doing, because you're making a restricted bonus action for a specific class even more restricted feeling. It's a bad decision. It's just so bad. It was really funny. I really liked talking to Q about it when that dropped, and his we were telling him about it. It was literally like a frame perfect response he had, where we talked about like, oh yeah, they changed how smites work. He's like, oh, it's official. And it's like, yeah, they're making it so you can only smite once per turn. He's like, good. Like immediately, because he thinks that needs to be changed.
I agree, but yeah.
And then I think it's cringe because they should do it more, but I can live with it. And then we said, yeah, now it's a bonus action. He's like, that's stupid. Like immediately was like, saw all the problems of why that's a dumb idea. Because, you shouldn't lock down a player's entire turn for a single action like that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that part as well. Make it a bonus action? Sure, or just make it once per turn and it's okay. Once per turn, then you can still do it as a reaction, really, if that opportunity arises. It just limits it somewhat, so you can't just attack with some version of exploding multiple smites around. And someone said it's a much more clunky, expensive Tasha's. And Richard asks, it sounds like sarcasm saying, if I'm happy with D&D, why do I need to play another game? D&D is just like a Bethesda game. It just works. It sounds like sarcasm.
Kinda. I mean, it literally, yeah, it's the same business model, because Bethesda releases a game and then has the idea of, we'll just release tools for the public to fix it later. That's the Bethesda model.
And to be fair, Pathfinder Remaster is pretty much the same thing, and I say that, and that's where I will disagree with my audience here. It's not, because the problem is there is that much of the remaster stuff was more verbiage than anything. There are some changes to some classes, which is kind of similar. But the remaster as a whole was a verbiage thing, kind of cleaning some stuff up and making the game overall function better. But remaster is also completely reverse compatible. If you don't like a new class variation, you can play the current class and the game still functions more or less the same. And there's not going to be that big of a difference between class output. The smite change by itself completely changes how Paladin will work in every aspect. And they didn't even fix most of the major problems people were having anyway. it just it with Player Core 2. I mean, I guess you could argue that Player Core 2 is just what 2024 should have been. Sure.
I think that's a way of putting it, is like the Player Core 2, when you put it together, like the Pathfinder Remaster, like the entire project of Pathfinder Remaster is the ideal version of what the D&D 2024 should be. It's in the core purpose of Pathfinder Remaster, like the whole remaster project for Pathfinder, is stepping away from D&D, legally speaking, stepping away for the OGL, but also taking this time to fix up a lot of issues a lot of older classes have, bump things up, and address issues that the community have talked about, and largely be very open and transparent about it. And I guess honestly just elevate everything to a good level. It's night and day difference. Just designing things to make everything operate a lot smoother, a lot better, and a lot more fun. To like look through your game and then be like, okay, this is what the intention was. Did we land the intention? No. Do we need to fully fix this, or is this something we need to tweak? And some of them just need to tweak it a little bit. And they got some great ones on the way. But like with the D&D 2024 remaster, it looks like what they're doing is some light nerf slapping on a couple things, and then they look at another thing and they're like, and I guess give this one a buff because it looks like Rogue is being, for some reason, highly treated well. You know, one of the best classes in 5th edition is just being like sucked off a little bit, apparently. I don't know. It's very different in vibe, because like Pathfinder Remaster is in purpose a very different project, and in outcome is going to be very different. But I wouldn't say they're the same thing. I do think that Pathfinder Remaster is the ideal version of what it should be.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's a remaster that you can buy the new books if you want them, and if you don't, all the rules are for free, which is another great thing that separates them.
Yeah, Phoenix made a good point. So, yeah, WotC, what they're doing, if you want the new stuff, you got to buy it. And for Pathfinder, just wait for Archive and Nethys to update, and you're gonna get every new change for free. So, you know, I feel like in the idea that it was forced upon them, they felt it was forced upon them. They didn't have to make the change, and in the end, they wouldn't have really needed to anyway, because they ended up just in perpetuity leaving the OGL the same. But they felt threatened, so they made it a smart choice. And legitimately, honestly, they should have just been moving away from D&D in 2nd edition anyway. But they were afraid people wouldn't play it because it was removing a lot of the D&D-ness people enjoyed.
Which was held by one man in particular. One specific content creator who really liked the D&D-ism.
Right.
I still love those tweets. They're my favorite tweets ever.
So, you know, for me, it just feels like a really sloppy errata that does literally nothing to fix anything in D&D for the 2024. Remaster, on the other hand, most of the things just make classes better. Like, it's just like, oh, yeah, Swashbuckler does just struggle getting their panache off, unless they do the one that makes them go last in the initiative, which kind of sucks. So we're just going to make panache go off more easily. Bada boom, really decent change. Which mostly just the familiar change. They had some other small changes, but the familiar change was the biggest one, which could have been an errata, could have been a whole new book, or not book, but like a multi-page like booklet for that specifically. But you could play with the old witch still, and it would be the same. Old champion and new champion is a little rough because of alignment, but that's just because then alignment becomes an overarching system of, okay, is this character good or bad? Do they get affected by this dance? Do I have to put a tag on this character when it's never that clean? But that's one of the few classes that, like, pre and post remaster is a little bit more funky. Even clerics, yeah, they had some good damage stuff, but it wasn't like a major part of their kit, and you could ignore that for the most part and it'd still work. So I'm not sure. Molly, and I mean, Kaylee, don't get me wrong, I'm open for the discussion, so don't feel like making your points or attacking that at all. I appreciate your input. Mainly just pointing out that depending on viewpoint, the two are similar in what they were. Absolutely agree with your points. Love the remaster outlay and is by far better than whatever 2024 is being. And the thing is like, yeah, and thank you. The thing is like with Paizo, you can see a very clear intent. They're making the game feel a little bit better. I felt many of the classes before the remaster were pretty balanced, but not necessarily everyone did. And they are loosening some of the shackles because they've learned developing second edition for the last 3-4 years. So that opened up some more space that they felt they couldn't add before. And so it's kind of just like they're updating the classes to be more modern with current design, which feels good. D&D, on the other hand, I don't know. If anyone could comprehensively tell me what their design plans are for this, I would like to hear that personally. Because right now it seems aimless, it seems sporadic, and it doesn't seem to address any of the actual issues players were having.
Honestly, and one of the reasons we can talk so confidently about what Pathfinder is doing is because Paizo has told us every single step of the way what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, they're so easy in communication, because we've had so many major live streams from them where they go over these changes. Blog posts, by the way. Go read the Swashbuckler post if you haven't. I really like their Swashbuckler changes, but we've talked about on TableTalk, where we've our issues with Swashbuckler.
And you can find that in our Discord.
Exactly. We talked about it. I'm a big fan. And one of the things I'm really, really enjoying about it is it's finally going to address the issue we have where panache gain, it just feels a little weird. And it's something I realized when we were talking about it yesterday in the Discord. I don't get really why panache needs to be done at the expense of another thing, you know? Like, a lot of panache gain is all through, like, emotional harm, in a way. Not saying this in, like, a wishy-washy, why do I need to be violent? More in, like, why is my swashbuckler not have enough self-esteem to be cool for the sake of being cool and admitting to himself that he's cool? Why can't I play a stylish character that's doing something stylish for himself? Which is what, it feels like Bravado is going to be doing. Is, like, it's gaining panache automatically. Where it's the Devil May Cry style fantasy for me, like when I'm playing a game, it's like, I'm playing this Dante. I'm air juggling, I'm doing these sick combos. Why is he doing it? For himself.
Yeah.
And like, that's the character I want to play, because he finds it fun. And I'm not doing it because like, I'm here to just make fun of every creature in Galarian. No, it's because he finds it funny. And so like, I like that change.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, yeah, and James does make a really good point. I will say, Pathfinder hasn't been out as long, so the remaster, there wasn't really a big expectation for it. It felt like a 0.5 update to the rules, but D&D has been out for over 10 years. Or about 10 years. I don't know, somewhere in that
It came
range.
out like, what, 2024? No, not 2014, 2015? I think 2014.
And somewhere in that range, doesn't matter. It's a long time. It's new edition worthy time. 2014. So yeah, around 10 years. And the game has had problems that we've been talking about forever. You know, everyone. back when I enjoyed D&D before Pathfinder 2nd Edition, I had problems. And then now it's like, what about multi-classing? What are they going to do with the multi-classing that has been an ever-prevalent issue in 5th edition? Because one, either you have to give up some of your core aspect of a character. It's like, I want to play a wizard, but if I want to play the most optimal wizard, I technically have to give up some of my best wizard options at endgame so that I can be a better wizard. In fact, I had to go fighter to be a better wizard. And yeah, their solution for multi-class to make levels 1 and 2 worse.
It's I don't get it.
I don't understand what their idea was. And yeah, so it's like, it feels like a very honest criticism to say 2024 is a cash grab to get players to buy an errata.
I think they're putting out a new book because they want more. Yeah, I think them admitting that, and also saying that, like, yeah, most people just start at 3 anyways. So like, what if we just built level 1 and 2 to be bad?
They just said that on stream levels 1 and 2 aren't built to be played. So they want you to start at level 3 now, is what I'm hearing.
What if crazy idea, crazy concept. What if they just moved all the levels back, like, down? So then level 1 is just level 3.
Right.
And so then, like, what if the leveling system just changed? And so now, like, you know, you just had more stuff in your levels, and your levels felt cooler because, like, you know, your level 1 was actually just level 3. Be kind of cool.
They said, quote, most campaigns start at level 3. If you're an experienced player, you start at level 3. You know how insane that sounds coming from a developer of a game?
So inexperienced players are going to have bad games.
So yeah, new players are going to hate the game more.
When you've admitted that you're designing the game around new players because classes are scary to new players because they're inexperienced, and if they look around and they see that there's like a 13th class instead of just 12, they're gonna shit themselves.
Yeah.
But if there's hundreds of subclasses, that's fine. God,
I thought we kept that quiet. Even the D&D. Yeah, I mean, that's... Oh, God, there's so much to talk about when it comes to this
They just jump back and forth with, like, who they're trying to, like, really market towards. And it's still more of, like, I'm still really strongly of the opinion that this... I think it seems like they really wanted to do a new edition of D&D, but I wouldn't be surprised if, like, it got shut down, or at least at some point in development. Because, like, I just think to high-ups who are very business-minded executives, they hear, hey, we're going to make the D&D sequel, D&D 6th edition. They're like, well, everything's marketed D&D 5e. And that could lose us money.
Yeah, people are dumb.
No. They don't know what a new edition means.
And so now we have...
To be fair, I don't think a lot of people that I have actually played D&D with would know what that means. If they're like, hey, they're coming out with D&D 6th edition, they would say, what the fuck does that mean? Like, I think that it would be an actual thing where they'd have to be very, very open repeatedly with explaining what an edition change is for the general audience. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's very normal and very good, and I think that'd be an honest method of doing this. I don't think they would ever do that.
And the crazy thing about it is, so you know what they thought would be less confusing? D&D 2024.
Yeah. Well, no, it was one D&D.
It was one D&D, then D&D next. Now it's just D&D 2024, and that's what they're putting on the book. How are people supposed to understand
D&D 2024 to be released in what, September, November?
September.
September. It's accurate for 4 months.
Yeah. How are they supposed to how are people who are not new to D&D, who've never played it before, supposed to see D&D 2024 and be like, oh, that's 5e related? Or, inversely, how is someone who plays D&D 5e, who has never, who's like not up to date on everything, see D&D 2024 and not think it's a new edition?
Yeah, they somehow wrapped around and did the same thing. Like, they could have just did like new D&D and probably everyone would be like, oh shit, new D&D? Hell yeah. Like, that probably would have done better. Wouldn't it? Like, I don't know. I think, yeah, I think it's a great idea, James. I think just getting your base used to the idea of updating your game is a healthy idea.
Yeah,
The
and
idea of new stuff is good.
Easy also makes a really good point. Their monster manual's not even coming out till next year. They're also not fixing CR. They don't have a plan for that. So, yeah, I don't know. When it came to the remaster, Pathfinder 2e remaster was literally, you could use the same monsters and it works. If a creature is evil, you just give it the unholy trait. If it's good, you give it the holy trait. Otherwise, no trait. Like, there's nothing that we still have been playing with old monsters just because there's way more than obviously new ones, and it's been perfectly fine. And in D&D, and I will say, they'll still be able to use the old monsters because it's still the same old bullshit, and they don't seem to be planning on changing it. But if you're new or you're trying to like get your game up to date, what they're just saying that the balance hasn't changed, even though it super has. I don't know, man. And this is why I feel like a lot of the content creators are so defensive about D&D, because they literally are, they see something new, they're like, oh man, that looks really fun, I'm excited to add that to my game. And then they see something that like but they understand that the game isn't changing fundamentally, that it's still borked. And so when people are just like, yeah, you like the new thing, but what about all the things they're not fixing? They're like, man, I'm just gonna take the things I like and move on. Okay, I don't know why you're all harping on me about this. And it's just like,
No one's playing real D&D. Everyone's playing their hyper homebrewed like version of D&D.
And you know what? I talked about this with Slug last night, about the complaints that a lot of people just don't want to learn a new game. D&D people not only have to constantly learn new things in their game because their GM is homebrewing shit all the time, but people are also hungry for homebrew, which is just more rules they're gonna have to learn to make their games work. People who play D&D are learning new rules all the time and more frequently than other tabletop games. What do you mean you don't want to play another game because you don't want to learn a new system? Honestly.
Like, honestly, it's not that crazy to just learn something slightly different, because it's clear. I think it's a good point. It's just, you're clearly hungry for something new, so actually learn something new. And also, it's a bit where I see it a lot, where a lot of D&D like fans, mainly, again, this is from personal experience, a lot of D&D like hyper fans often overinflate how difficult other games are.
Yeah.
Almost like it's the mantra of like D&D is the best and simplest game. When also, no, D&D is not the easiest game.
It's not even close.
There's a lot of really easy games, which then run the gambit of like, it's simple because there's like no rules to it, because it's like just got nothing to it, but also like there are games that are just so smooth to run because there's like perfectly made rules light. But then also overinflating how complicated some games are. Because like, I get looking at games where you read through it on the surface, and you look at something like Pathfinder Second Edition, you look at something like Lancer, and you're like, that's a lot. That's complicated. That's gonna be too much. But the problem is, it's no, you're jumping in head first, dog. You got to start at the shallow end and work your way over. You can't just dive into like the 12-foot end of the pool without knowing how to swim. You got to work your way over.
Force into the goblins with fat asses. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a simple system.
and you know what, James? I completely agree with you. I'm also convinced that people who think D&D is the simplest game have never tried to run the game by the book. Do you know, like, I ran Adventures League. Do you know how frustrating Adventures League is to run when you're looking at a game and you have to play by the book. You have to, because it's official play. And you have to run the game by the rules. And there's just no rules for anything a player wants to do.
It's an awkward spot to be put in where you're like, I have to follow the official rules, but there is none.
But
what
they're
do I do?
broken. Like,
or worse, there are rules and it's bad.
or that. Also people who are like, advantage disadvantage is the best system ever to come to tabletop games. I'm just like, you know how extra swingy that makes the dice in the game? Do you understand just like why so many DMs remove advantage as much as possible from their game? Because it removes a big part of the general like percentage chances that things were initially set up with, and how it just breaks the game in every way. And you know, I personally wanted D&D whatever the fuck to be a better D&D, a more balanced, easier to set up, just a better experience. I don't care if they cut stuff from the game. Hell, it sounds like they could just cut off levels 1 and 2, just make 3 the new level 1, and just have 10 levels. Don't even need to go beyond that, because it seems like they don't think that their player base plays much beyond that higher anyway. Just make that.
Condense your levels, yeah.
And just make the game easier. Just let the players do like whatever. Sounds fine. Also, CR system is a complete joke, makes no sense, and thus makes the game infinitely harder for GMs to make rules for. So that should have just gotten fixed from the ground up.
I like how much of an open thing it is that CR is shit.
Everyone says that.
CR is stupid. Like it's so open and it's just so accepted that like, yeah, ignore everything about CR, and then everyone makes these good third-party tools of like how to work around difficulty, because it's the Bethesda system that Wizards of the Coast has of someone else will fix it.
Yeah, someone else will fix it.
I literally last night I got a fucking TikTok that was a genuinely good like website of like this battle sim that you plug in your party, their class, like everything, and then you plug in what monsters for combat you want to run, and it'll simulate to the best of its ability, like with average rolls and combat abilities, what level of combat you're gonna have, like how long the combat's gonna be. It goes through all of that, and so you can like, okay, I want to have a difficult encounter that'll last like 4 rounds, and you throw these monsters in, and you're like, okay, if I add these monsters, it'll last this long. They'll waste on average this many resources if they don't fuck up consistently on every roll. Cool. Okay, this is what it can do. And it's like, that's a great tool. I hope everyone knows about this. It's like, man, you know, having your difficulty system scaled around four party members, that's so useful for everybody.
Yeah, for the tons and tons of tables I see with 6+ players, like on average, it's
I have to find the tool. I can do some quick googling.
It's yeah, I don't know. Look, this wasn't meant to be a D&D bashing stream necessarily.
A lot of ours are.
I know,
it's
but
fine.
like, I want D&D people to be happy, okay? I'm frustrated on their behalf. I wanted the game to be more what they wanted, in general. And I'm desperately trying to try to orientate things. Also, hi Jess, on how it should be for the D&D players to enjoy it, because like there's a lot of D&D players out there who say that the thing they like about D&D is how broken they can make it. Cool. Why then did they make it where some of the funnest class in D&D, Paladin, got nerfed the hardest? When they said, this is the crazy thing, when they said beforehand that they looked at Paladin, they saw how people liked it, and they said they weren't going to change it, and then they changed it dramatically.
They really like just changing what they say. Like man, and I don't know. I have to look through and see what they changed with Rogue, because all I saw was some tweets saying, "Man, Rogue got treated really well. I love the Rogue changes." Being like, isn't Rogue also considered like stupidly powerful alongside Paladin?
Right.
Like Rogue is super strong because like you can if you have advantage, you just kill everything with stupidly high dice. The difference is, for literally actually for the same reason, you're throwing down a lot of dice. It's just once per turn. Yeah, okay. So they just got more tools.
Yeah.
So they just got treated really well.
And Kurita here is the perfect example of what converts a lot of people over. Prior to OGL, I was a D&D only for my standard fantasy RPGs. I couldn't believe that anything could be as good because there was just so much content due to the community size, which a lot of people talk about. Once I actually gave Pathfinder 2nd Edition a look, it was a big eye-opener. I was surprised how much more simple it was compared to 5e, because you don't have to arbitrate the rules as much, and didn't need third party to fix things. The thing that is so crazy is that D&D people are so pilled most of the time. They look at the sheer amount of D&D content, third-party content out there, and they think that's what every tabletop game should be, because every third-party content that they use fixes the game for them. So that's what they associate third-party content with. They're just like, I love third-party content. Some of my favorite classes are third-party content. We don't play any games without any third-party content. When in reality, it's our game is so broken. Every time someone saves us a third party, I want to weep. And then the people who actually have made it over to Pathfinder and played it enough to like actually get what the game is, they're like, oh my god, I can't believe I was addicted to third-party content because it was a drug on keeping 5e on life support.
Yeah, literally, Jess. I've told Q this, and I've told the party this. I'm a big 5e, like, I'll criticize 5e, but also, like, the reason I like tabletop games is because the group I'm in, it'll carry me through a lot of things. Q makes 5th edition a lot more engaging. Because essentially he's Pathfinder-ized 5e to an extent. There's still some D&D isms that rub me the wrong way. Like, a couple things that he can't adjust. There's things that, like, just overtly he can't mess with. Because it's just baked in too hard into the core game. They're core stuff. And I can't fault him for that. And so I don't. But then there's a lot of stuff that he's added and made a lot of stuff really cool. And also, yeah, it should not be his burden to do that. It's not his job. But the stuff he has done to the game itself, and to the classes, when he looks at stuff and is like, why is this class ability so stupid? Let me give you something better. And then it's like, Bard's entire, for example, what he did to Bard. Bard is meant to be AoE, or not AoE, but Bard is meant to be all about buffs and debuffs, like full support, full debuff, but you can build it in a lot of different ways. You can also build a damagey Bard, a healy Bard, there's a lot of methods. And Q looked at some issues, for example, like Counter Charm, and he's like, that's really dumb. why would you ever use counter charm? As most people have often looked at counter charm. And there's a few other class features for Bard that are also similarly just kind of stupid. And so what he did is he made it so like bards are all about like performing and you doing art. So why is there nothing about like performing in combat? So he built something called ambience. So as I'm like casting spells and like my character plays music in combat, I am literally creating AoE buffs for people around me. And as I also then have an upgraded version, as I'm like higher level, I gain this as I like got much higher level. If I cast a spell, I get an amplified AoE ability that lasts based on the like high level spell I cast. 5th level spell, it lasts for 5 rounds. That gives me an increased AoE buff for like 60 feet. That like a temporary thing that I can switch around. People can tap into. It's really useful. But it essentially makes me a moving like helpful AoE that I'm balancing like 4 different effects, and it's complicated and fun. Like you have those things where you're like, oh, I have a build now.
It sounds way cooler than anything Wizards of the Coast has actually produced.
Exactly. And that's what makes it cool. Because it's those things where you're like, wow, I want to play a supporty bard and also some debuff bards. Because like literally, and this is a guy who's played Pathfinder 2nd Edition, didn't fully fuck with it, but is also talking about switching over to Pathfinder.
Yeah, well, again, I don't think he played enough to really fully get it, but anyway.
Exactly. He had some other his game is D&D, but also he's fully made D&D his baby. Like he has his version of D&D, which I do think is his version of D&D is the version I like. So it's what I'll give him. He made a good version. I trust him more with the game than Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, right? Is I said it earlier this stream, some of you may have missed it. I have an experience in D&D that trumps everything I've done in Pathfinder up to this point. An experience. I have one character I thoroughly enjoyed. I enjoyed how we played in that campaign, and that was good. But the overall general experience, like happiness level, is way higher in Pathfinder by a wide margin. Also, something I didn't even really think about it in the conversation up until this point. D&D is one of the hardest games to play at other tables because of the mass amount of homebrew. You have to learn a whole new way of playing D&D at every new table you go to. That sounds insane when you're like, I don't want to learn how to play another game. I just want to play D&D. And you have to do it every time someone else decides to GM.
Rip to the people who joined more recently Q's game, which also, yes, I am saying all this on the eve of either literally tomorrow or next week, depending.
Being your last session, yeah.
Being my last session, because I have to leave for my own reasons. But it was a great game that I was part of for 4 years. But all the changes I mentioned were made, like, there were a lot of those homebrew stuff, granted. But a lot of the changes, for example, to my bard, making it complicated and fun, did slowly happen over 4 years. And it was made it easier to learn because it slowly happened over 4 years. And so I'm like, the idea of me jumping in and looking at all that, being a high level character, like learning that, being like, oh fuck, oh boy,
yeah,
jumping into it now, my condolences. It's very possible though, because he's a good GM and he'll work with you and actually like teach you everything. But it's still it's the same situation. You when you look at something really complicated or perceived complication, and you get immediately like that overwhelming feeling of, oh fuck. It's the people who look at Pathfinder 2e and are like, that's how the classes are laid out? Oh, uh-oh. It's like, no, don't look at it like that. Just look here, look at level 1.
Just look at what your character does. That's all you have to worry about for now.
Exactly. It's the recommendation I always give, at least, and I think you'd agree, for brand new players, is like, just figure out the class you want to play, figure out the basic stuff. Don't worry about making a build. Just play it level by level. Just focus on the now.
That's why players shouldn't feel like skipping levels 1 and 2. It should be training for the future. Exactly. And you know who does that really well? Pathfinder. Because you get better and better class features natively as you level up, not even selecting feats for it.
I feel like a pretty set character at level 1 with the amount of stuff I can do.
Yeah. Not in D&D. Not in D&D. Low level in D&D is the worst experience.
I'm a guy with 6 health.
Yeah, it's you know, and there's, and like Jeremy Crawford and everything, they've just said like people just make their own games. So we're just providing them a fun base, and then they're just like, here's the fun base, and it's just a platter of mess all over the place. It's just like, how are people supposed to understand how your game is really supposed to work when playing a singular class is early game one of the worst things you can do, and late game one of the best things you can do, because that makes no sense depending on how late game your game even goes. And I just, when I see these content creators coming out saying D&D is the best game and no other game, why would I learn another game? I already have D&D. It feels stubborn. It feels foolish, and it feels like it's not just about them enjoying D&D. Because yeah, everyone can agree if you enjoy D&D, you should play D&D. That's fine. The problem is that whenever you say a complaint, or whenever you're just like, man, oh, I hate it when my players do this, and you're just like, you know what game doesn't do that? Literally any other game. And they're just like, stop telling me to enjoy other games. I just want to complain about the game that I refuse to change from.
The GM whips out any form of encumbrance, it's fight on site.
Yeah.
Especially D&D encumbrance. It's probably bad. I've never looked into it because I hear encumbrance and aggro starts. Elden Ring music begins.
And yeah, you know, Kurt, you're right as well. Choice, the freedom of choice that you have in Pathfinder is intimidating for some people. I know some people who literally cannot handle anything that gives them more than 5 choices at any given time. And that's just not going to change no matter what, even if you're playing D&D. Because even though, yes, while D&D doesn't give you a ton of choices when you've already selected something, it does give you a lot of choices when you're making a character at base. And technically, it gives you more choices because multi-classing is always an option. So
it is a scary thing, because like I remember making my first character for Pathfinder was literally I saw how many things there were, and I was just looking through every class, and I was like, oh fucking god. It was just like, it was so much that, and this was like back in the day. This was like 2020. For example, this was fresh Pathfinder 2e. And so it was like that. It's worse now. And so all I did was like, okay, this is getting a lot. This is too much. I need to focus in. All I'm gonna do is make a character that maybe I'd make in like a D&D or something. Like because like, and recently at that point, a character I had played was a monk in like a large D&D game I played in college. So I made a monk, and I realized I ascended to the heavens that day, because I found out that monk in Pathfinder, finally I could play a non-key based spiritual like monk. I could just play a get over here bucko, I'm gonna beat your ass monk. Just a brawler, because that's all I want. I just want to play a guy who walks up to a dragon, roundhouse kicks them, and it's just like, that's just as effective as a full magic sword. What are you gonna do about it, loser? That's what I want.
And Jess here says, I think for me, D&D is easier to get into because it's the more popularized and streamlined character creation process and in Pathfinder 2, I feel like I need hand holding. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the aspects of it where D&D is so accessible that everyone has seen everything and people have used it a ton. So it's just easy. It feels much easier. And
Yeah.
and Pathfinder, admittedly, backgrounds feels very confusing at first because background seems like it adds way more to your character than it really does.
You get skill proficiencies and sometimes maybe a third thing.
Well, you get stat choices, you get a more static stat choice, and then a free stat choice. You get 2 skill proficiencies and a skill feat with some exceptions. And then you have your ancestry, which gives you a heritage you can select plus a feat at level 1. And then you get a class that may or may not have a level 1 feat. And some classes have subclasses, quote unquote, that you need to select from, which is a lot. I completely admit that. But once you've done it just like a couple times, it's really easy because you know what really matters for your build, and everything else kind of just goes around that. Like, and people are like, but I like the goofy characters I can make in D&D. And just like in our Monday game for our Sunday game for Pathfinder, we have a time traveling Russian frog because Russia is canon in Pathfinder.
There was a module to go to Siberia and kill Rasputin.
Yeah,
like an official published Paizo one. That is my go-to. You've never looked into anything Pathfinder, check out this module. I used it in the video. It's my favorite thing to point to.
Yeah, they're a summoner, and they're from and they have the chrono skimmer archetype setting.
I love the
and they
Chrono
also
Skimmer.
have time traveler background.
I love the Chrono Skimmer and the Time Traveler background. I also have that combo. I have a different class. I think it's a Marcus is what I made. But it's really fun. Yeah, that is the tip of the iceberg, by the way. If there was a Pathfinder iceberg, Rasputin's the tip. By the way, he's an Oracle. It's a level 17 Oracle.
And it seems like James has just been popping off. Let's see. I get the feeling of just wanting to bitch and moan about D&D, I'm assuming. There are things in Pathfinder that I find either redundant or straight up disagree with the design-wise. Thankfully, Pathfinder is so strong. I know how to write for Pathfinder that whatever problem I have can be overcome. But when I talk to people who are trying new systems, I try to meet them on the love the game and the story more than your game is so poorly designed.
It's just a better way to engage with people because
Yeah.
if you are trying to have a conversation with a human being and you want it to be, a normal conversation with a human being, you should come at them normally and not with, hey, the thing you like is dog shit. Like, because if you come at them with just hating on their thing, and that's the reason you should come check out my thing. All it's gonna do is make someone shut down and go like, fuck you, man. But you come at somebody, you have a good conversation, you can convince people to try out a lot of things. I've had good conversations with like other random tabletop fans. I've had a civil conversation with a guy who genuinely has played, like he played in a campaign. I think he said it was like it lasted a few months. He did play in a Pathfinder 2e game. He was just not a fan of it. Like he didn't like it. I don't fully remember all of his reasons. I think he was like a GM for D&D, but it was just not a game style he enjoyed. And one of the reasons was like it's just he prefers the kind of simplicity and the familiarity of D&D. And also he's a guy who works full time, isn't like married to tabletop, so it's not the exact experience he's looking for his table. And so it's like, all right, fair enough. Like that's a normal conversation we can have. And then, but if I came at it from the, no, your game is bad, you should try again, you did it wrong, it's not gonna do anything. But you can know it's healthy to talk that out, even though I fully believe that like Pathfinder of the two games is better. I can still also see why someone can look at another game, find the enjoyment out of it, why they could prefer something over the other, and find the validity in what they're saying, because everyone has a right to how they feel and what experiences they get out of something.
Yeah. And and the thing is, the major reason why D&D people get a lot of this stuff about trying new games in the first place is because half the time they're complaining about something the game does terribly. You know what I mean? Like, most of the time they're just like, "Ah, I dislike this thing. I hate that D&D doesn't do this." And someone's like, "Hey, there's a game that you probably would like better." And they're like, "Quit telling me to play better games." It's if someone says I really like Monster of the Week, I'm not gonna look at them and be like, yeah, but Monster of the Week is just a super rules light system and nothing you roll really matters because everyone can do everything with every skill. It's like, no, yeah, I totally understand because Monster of the Week is a rules light game that's mostly about the narrative and it's got kooky, fun Monster Hunter archetypes thrown into it. And we played a really fun Monster of the Week game. But I can also say I don't like some parts about Monster of the Week because I feel like it is a little too shallow for me to really get to have fun in.
It's a good game for a short period of time.
It's a 3-foot swimming pool. Yeah, sure. You can swim
fun for a bit.
You can get underwater a little bit. You can't dive in it though. There's not really a lot to do in it. But it's fun. I enjoyed it. We've been playing Fabula Ultima on Saturdays. It's been a blast. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And if someone told me I like Fabula Ultima more than Pathfinder 2nd Edition, I can completely see why. Because you can still get that build potential kind of in Fabula Ultima. Not to the same depth level, but it's also a rules light game, and there's a lot more narrative fun you can have with it, where Pathfinder can seem a little restricting at times. But if I don't like Fabula Ultima LOL, then you could just play Pathfinder 2nd Edition or Lancer,
Yeah. So many other games. And Jess, were you playing a Tempest Oracle instead of a... That sounded like, because Tempest Oracle does deal with waves. So I think you might have been right. Wind and waves.
And the problem is you tell me you like Fabula Ultima more, I can understand because I generally understand the design principle around Fabula Ultima. D&D, I'm so confused what people want out of that game. Because people are like, the simplicity. And I'm like, okay, what is this simplicity that you're talking about? They're like, well, I don't like adding modifiers except for, I guess, the modifiers they already add to the other checks. I don't like how Pathfinder adds so many modifiers. It's like, all right, you're intimidated by simple math. Got it. You want one number you add to everything, and you never want a bonus to that. Got it. All right. What else? Is just like, I just want to do things. I just want to be able to be invulnerable to flame without having it be a whole system. It's like, okay, cool. So you can play Fabula Ultima, and all you have to do is just add 2 dice rolls together. You don't even have typically base modifiers unless you want to with some of the classes. And if you just want to do things, you can honestly just do things in Fabula Ultima, right?
It is just very open.
It's like you guys need to go into a cave. All you need is someone who has the ability to make elemental rituals, and then they just do a ritual to give your group immunity to lava, and the GM can set the DC, you can do it, and then you just do it. It's simple, it's easy. So what does D&D offer to people? Because when I say Pathfinder is D&D but better, I'm saying it as every system D&D has is just it is better written out and better balanced in Pathfinder. Legitimately, the classes balanced, multi-classing balanced, the setting up encounters balanced, Should I go on? Crafting rules, balanced. Like, it the fact that you don't even have to worry about attack of opportunity with like 80% of enemies is so nice because players don't have to worry about their actions. And then what? You like the action economy in D&D better because it's simpler for you because an action makes sense and a bonus action makes sense. And then there's just the move action. It's just like, I guess, but in Pathfinder you can just do whatever with your actions. There actually is just no restriction in that way.
3 actions, and then the one I genuinely like, it's my favorite, which is the thing that always it's the one where I mentioned they're my core shakeups when it comes to D&D 5e. That's just at the core of it is it's hard to go back to casting spells that are save and suck when you have to deal with the 4 tiered success and fail system for Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Where you have you have a minor effect on spell success. Where all right, they succeeded to save, I still at least get something and I didn't waste a slot. And that feels good. Feels nice. And it's like, okay, the enemy crit succeeded, fair enough. All right, I'll take that. They rolled stupidly good. Or this, you know what? Fair enough. This enemy, stupidly good on this. Fair. I can take that. But it makes it so, even if an enemy is very good at something and they resist it, they still can succeed, but you'll still get something. Just for a turn. And that helps for the turn. It feels nice. Like, playing a wizard in Pathfinder feels great. I'm having a great time as a wizard.
Yeah.
It is the moment I had where this Tuesday where I used Desiccate on 3 brine dragons, and God, it was the coolest shit. Where I looked at this situation where my DCs are lowered, and I look at all 3 of those, and I'm like, wait a second, they got the water trait. I got this new spell, Desiccate. Any creature with the water trait has a step lowered on their save. What if I cast Desiccate? And I did it, and I immediately half-health 2 adult dragons. And it felt fantastic. Because it was awesome. It's a situational ability like that.
Yeah, and you know what it sucks? If you did the same thing in D&D, Jess just mentioned it, legendary resistance.
Legendary resistance is very annoying.
The most cringe system in D&D, literally something they had to put into the game because they're like, oh man, players are really strong and we don't want them one-shotting bosses. How do we fix this? I get it. Completely annul their action. Make them do nothing. That's how we'll balance our game.
Also, yeah, it's my biggest issue is having a playstyle dictated around how well another person rolls, and it's why when eventually I take part in the later high level game, the character I'm making is full martial because I'm like I'm gonna roll and hit ACs. I swear to fucking God, I'm not gonna deal with a single saving throw.
Yeah,
I can't. Every single bard spell I have is a saving throw, and I'm like I don't want to deal with if I don't have the Pathfinder spell tier thing, I don't want to deal with it. I won't have as much fun because it's just I like Pathfinder's thing. It's just I don't like just negating spell stuff like that with resistance. I don't like spells that just turn off when someone succeeds. I'm not a fan of it.
But, in Oyman, I agree. I'm also allergic to D&D 5e after playing Pathfinder. It's rough. I struggled playing Baldur's Gate 3, honestly, because I couldn't help but think about it. At least Baldur's Gate 3 was really good, though.
Baldur's Gate 3 had a lot of improvements to at least, a lot of core game stuff. And I find it really funny how I saw discourse being like, yeah, there's a lot of changes that they made, but I don't think these changes I think they would mess with the game and they would kind of break D&D if they were ported into the actual tabletop game. And then recently we see the Chris Perkins interview where he says, people really like those dang Baldur's Gate 3 rules, huh? I guess we could sneak those in and people wouldn't be too hung up about it.
Yeah, they have weapon actions now based on weapon types in 2024.
Yeah.
Which is, huh. But like the whole point I was making earlier was, okay, I've pretty much iterated every reason that Pathfinder is better than D&D from the perspective of I like these aspects. I like crafting rules. I like balance in my game. I like this, that, and whatever, right? So what if those weren't what you liked in D&D? What if, like Blaine Simple says, or like a lot of other people who play D&D says, where I like the stories we tell. I like the kind of goofy things we get to do in this game. I like how there's just not too much restriction on how wild some of our characters can get. And it's just like, okay, in what ways? They give examples. The examples they give is just like, you just want a rules-like game. You want a rules-like game where you do a really silly action that wins the day, more or less.
I think James said it earlier, and I honestly think if the average D&D player knew what it meant, I think it would do well. But they said people want Powered by the Apocalypse with a D&D label. The average player wants that. I honestly think splitting D&D into Dungeons and Dragons and D&D Tactics would be a boon. Because the amount of people I've also had to deal with who, it's the people you meet that are like, they like the idea of D&D. And that's not me trying to like gatekeep, because I think that's really shitty to do that.
That is really shitty.
It is openly shitty, and I hope no one in this community would do that. Where everyone can have the chance and the opportunity to play a game, especially if they're a person who is not in any way tied to nerd spaces typically, or is perceived to not be tied to nerd spaces typically.
Right.
But there are 100%. Oh no, I'm getting canceled now. But having ran groups for this, and this is fully from experience, people who like the idea of D&D. They like, or really, honestly, sometimes they like making OCs.
Right.
And that's kind of it. And it's the players you have that really, they sit at the table, they zone out, they stack dice, they're on their phone, they're doing everything else except playing D&D. No, I'm not making good points here. No, not cancel me. But it's people that really like the idea of D&D, but I think when it comes to actually learning the rules, that's where the hang up is. It's learning a game that isn't like a screen is hard for a lot of people. There's a separation there because you look at it and you're like, this is a piece of paper. This is all taking place in my mind. I just can't make that jump. But then, they go to a video game and it's really easy. Like, they can jump into Baldur's Gate, like, super easily. Like, stuff like that. It's a real thing. And I think Powered by the Apocalypse, like, a rules-light system might be easy. It slaps some D&D branding. And that kind of is the idea of D&D. It's a rules-light game where you kind of just say yes and roll a dice occasionally. The GM can kind of pilot it pretty well. And, the GM can just be like, oh, you guys like D&D, want to try out D&D to a bunch of people who are very, very tabletop casual. Everyone can have a great time, not feel overwhelmed or like confused at all. Everyone can just have a fun, goofy romp. I feel like that would be a fun little like tiny book release that they could do. I feel like that'd do better for a chunk of players I've played with who for the 2 years I've played with them, struggled to learn how to make attack rolls. Which is the thing I always go to, because it's like, you're playing a combat character, we play every week, how do you forget how to make an attack roll?
Yeah, I had a kid at Adventures League forget how to cast Eldritch Blast.
Yeah, every week.
Every week.
Cast Eldritch Blast.
It's like, you're
how
a
do you
warlock.
forget how to cast?
All you do. How do you not know this?
Yeah, and then I'm like, I look at one of our core frontline characters for a game we keep playing every week. It's like, all right, you're making an attack roll to attack. What do I add, bro?
Yeah,
I think I did say things like that after like a couple months because he was a good friend of mine. It was like 5 months in, and I was like, bro, you have made over 100 attack rolls.
You've done this, please.
And it's like I literally point at his sheet. You have to follow the line right here, just in order. Like, please understand this. But it's just I do think it's the part of tabletop casuals where there are people who want to play tabletop games because it's you want to hang out with your friends, and that's what the main goal is. Your goal isn't there to get hyper sucked into a tabletop game. You want to hang out with your buddies
Yeah.
and like goof around, and like that's the goal, and that's fine. If everyone at the table is guided around that idea, that works perfectly well. It wasn't suited the best for me. Everyone at the table was good friends with me, and vice versa. It was great, but like, uh, I was very serious tabletop player, so there's some parts, especially when I was running a game at that point, where I was like, please learn how to play the game.
Yeah.
Please, I don't want to run, like, there are 3 players here that I have to run the game for you. Please learn how to play. Yeah, I view it as there are people that just don't want to learn, and it can be malicious, and it can be just they don't want to learn because it's not why they're there.
Yeah, it's and you know what? I will say, I was thinking about it. There is one thing that D&D does better than both of these games, than Pathfinder or Fabula Ultima or whatever rules-like game. You want to know what that is? Breaking the game.
That's true.
It's this is the thing I think that a lot of the D&D content creators are actually what they like, but they refuse to say out loud because it makes them seem kind of cheesy. They enjoy a game that's complicated enough where they can break it. They don't want to play a rules-like game because you're not breaking anything. You're not doing anything special. You're just doing what they want. And they don't want a balanced game because then they can't break anything. That's why some of the biggest D&D channels out there were channels talking about the most broken build, the best magic item, the best 5 spells you should take on every caster build. They love breaking the game over their knee. They want a system that they can abuse to do goofy and janky things with. They want to make infinite wizards. They want to do all this kind of stuff. They want to do legitimately everything that is inherently bad for a narrative experience. And I did say inherently bad, not always bad.
I think it's also there's the fun of theory crafting builds, which I'm curious to what extent it comes through, because it depends on the intent of piloting it when it comes to the people making them. Because I can see there's a chunk of creators who would make that and just be like, I like the idea of theory crafting these builds, and just like, I like that, like, hey, here's a thing that is theoretically possible, and then but then there are the people who are looking it up because it's like, ooh, I know what to bring now. And like to that vibe. And there are some builds I've seen in D&D where I'm like, oh god, that looks kind of annoying to just have at the table as like another player. But like, it's the same deal as like in the people who simulate like really effective characters in Pathfinder, people who want to optimize fully the game. I like, to be honest, I find both behavior very annoying to try to optimize fully for a tabletop game, which is a game that is inherently, in my eyes, not designed to be optimized. It's designed to like be played at a table and not dealt with combat for everything.
Yeah. I mean, I made a video called Your Build Doesn't Matter, talking about that.
And it's the bit right, as I always say when this comes up, the video I want you to make.
it's
proves the point better.
yeah, it's the thing is it's and the thing is they say they love playing the game. I can only imagine that it's either one, they're willfully ignorant, they played other games and they didn't like how they couldn't game the system enough, or they couldn't just do whatever they wanted enough, and that's why they stuck with D&D. So they're either
I have
willing
no
to.
clue.
Sorry, go ahead.
The one like Blaine person.
Plain simple.
Yeah, Blaine Simple. I looked up while you were mentioning them because I've never heard of them before this stream. They made a Pathfinder video recently. I have no clue deeper in the video if they like, you know, kind of shit talk it. But at least seems from like the comments and from the initial part, seems like they really enjoy Pathfinder.
It's weird because in his most recent video, he said he didn't like it. So.
Oh, that's weird because like the intro of the Pathfinder specific video was, had the joke of I refuse to play a thing with D&D, but let me see what Pathfinder's about. Oh my god, this game's great.
Weird.
And then the most recent video is I don't like Pathfinder. That's
yeah. I played his words like almost verbatim. I played Pathfinder and it just wasn't for me.
Yep, fair enough. I guess I don't know. In the
what happened between then and now?
Video?
Yeah.
Wait, in a video that's the strongest race combinations in D&D?
Sorry, before that one.
Oh, just the D&D community video.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, fair enough if it just wasn't for you, but at least the least, unless they go into more detail, but
no,
like,
no.
Yeah.
There wasn't really any more detail. They just want to play D&D and they don't want people yelling at them for doing so.
Interesting.
Which I feel like most D&D content creators are doing nowadays because they're just tired of getting flack on all sides. And that's just the thing is they're upset at the consequences of their own actions. They cover a game that has garnered a lot of hate from different peoples. And they're upset when that happens. And to be fair, their livelihood is based on it, so I can only imagine it's stressful. But that's the boat they've put themselves in. I don't understand this idea because no one is legitimately telling them to just stop playing D&D, or at least not sane people, you know. It's a lot of Twitter freaks. It's a lot of people out there who are just like, man, here's my unreasonable expectation of you. Most standard people are like, yeah, sure, play D&D. That's fine. You can enjoy D&D. Not like, that's not a bad issue. The bad issue is you keep saying you don't like this in D&D, and then you refuse to play anything else because there's homebrew, which is ridiculous. So I don't know. This whole D&D 2024 I think is going to be a big turning point because it's going to fracture the D&D community even more than it already has been. OGL, Pinkertons, all that stuff, that was a big blow. The sheer number of you, my audience, who are here today thanks to the OGL. And now we're going to have a division of D&D 5e and D&D 2024, which is going to be so stupid because they're going to be playing close to but not the same games. And you're going to get D&D people telling other D&D people, just play 2024. They fixed this. They're going to get the same argument again, but only from D&D people this time. That sounds... Oh my god, it's so silly. Oh, I wanted a new edition of D&D that felt better for the people who played it. The fixing question, no more Smite.
Sounds like that's one of the main stuff, because yeah, I looked at, for example, like one of the recent ones when it came to Rogue. I didn't see any like major Rogue nerfs. I'm curious. I bet we'll talk about it tomorrow. what some of the other changes are, because it is I am always curious what drops. Um, all I saw was people saying, "Oh shit, they don't have a disarm action now or something." But it seems like they got a lot of additions. Oh boy. I mean, no, the smite nerf being a once per turn thing is good. It being a bonus action is inherently bad, and
Yep.
that is the part I will not shift on. Nerfing smite is fair. I think it's dumb, and I don't like it as someone who thinks smite is funny. But it's a biased reason. I think the smite nerf is annoying. I will not say it's good or bad. Making it a bonus action will make every single paladin player play really fucking lame and save their bonus actions for nothing interesting. That's all it is. So no, I firmly disagree to that extent on yeah, no, I also addition wars are very annoying because inherently often too the addition wars is always under the predilection of the idea that you have to play one system and be married to one thing, and I don't like that mentality. Fun fact, I was actually scrolling through the comments of Blaine Simple's that D&D community, and a lot of the comments were people also talking about like just doing the whole like talking about their opinions on stuff, but it was people really saying like, I switched over to Pathfinder only, I'm fully leaving the D&D community forever. It's like, you don't have to do that either. Like, you can still like there's one comment of this guy being fully like, I'm so sad because I can never watch these videos again and watch videos of other D&D creators. Like, yes, you fucking can. What are you, dude? You don't have to. You can be system agnostic. You don't have to worry about additions in like games you enjoy. You can chill out. You can play multiple. You don't have to have one thing that's your core identity. Play other games. Just have a bunch of things you enjoy. It's fine. Don't wrap your whole identity around one product. It's weird, and all it will do is burn you in the end. Yeah, I have so many critiques of D&D, but I have finished Fantasy High. It's great. I thoroughly enjoyed Fantasy High, and I also thoroughly enjoyed the parts of the what was it, Adventuring Party, where they were almost making the point of the issues of 5e, but never fully made it in the end. But only because I thought it was a little funny. But I also they made 5th edition as fun for their group as possible. And it was people taking this game that I don't fully enjoy as they're playing it. I wouldn't have a great time at their table with the rules that they have in place. But they're playing it to the extent that everyone there is having a blast. And that's what matters. So, yeah, it's in the end, that's really it. You can just enjoy whatever you want. Just play other games. You don't have to be married to one thing.
Yeah. And honestly, someone who doesn't have a lot of this problem, Bob World Builder, we talked about him before here on the channel, but in a more positive light now. He's just like, I prefer simpler OSR, grittier kind of games. And he doesn't get all bent out of shape about all the D&D hate or anything like that. And it's because he just plays other games. He just talks about things in general. I mean, he made his whole channel around the idea of what if D&D rules, but in real life, what would that be like? So I just feel like...
Which is a fun concept always, but like that's our mentality when it comes to like, play other things. Just have a wide range of stuff you do.
Yeah. Just, like it is annoying. And I've said multiple times already today, it's annoying that these people have to go through this process of they make a video, they're talking about something they enjoy, and they see nothing but people shitting it on them in their comments the entire time. But it's just kind of like, don't touch the hot burner kind of situation. They do this. They make a video. They complain about it. They make another video. They complain about it. They make another video. They complain about it. Like... yeah, you're just talking about a game people don't enjoy. Either filter it out and just don't pay attention to it and just let it be, or Just talk about something else. The reason why everyone gets on these content creators' butts the entire time is because the content creators are very stalwartly, I don't want to play other games, I want to play D&D. And everyone's just like, but everything you complain about is because of D&D and works better in literally other system. It's like they're literally inviting themselves to be hit over and over and over, and then are just complaining about it. You make content on a game people don't like, you're going to get comments about people not liking that content. I don't want to cure cancer, I want to turn people into dinosaurs. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to do the thing that will get people off my ass about this. I want to talk about more annoying rules in D&D. Like, it's goofy, and I think we can really take a look at where D&D 2024 is and Pathfinder 2, Remaster 2, Player Core 2 is, and see, like, okay, this is how Pathfinder community is, which is mostly a bunch of sweaty neckbeards arguing about whether builds or not, or feats or whatever, are stronger in their White Room combats, or people who are just hyped for it. And then you can look at D&D 24, where the content creators are like, this is really cool. Also, stop telling me to play other games. It's just, it's fascinating. And we didn't even get to talk about the No Nats video, or the Ronald the Rules or Rules Lawyer videos, kind of on the general same subjects today. There's just a lot of ranting about D&D, and we would not talk about D&D this much if legitimately it wasn't something that could be good. Because at the end of the day, D&D 5e definitely has tons of potential for fun. Alex and I both have tons of good experiences in D&D 5e. If it was legitimately just a terrible game, we probably wouldn't be talking about it as much. We'd be more saying, I don't know why people don't like this game. It's just bad, period. Rather than like actually going into the rules, finding the problems, giving our own solutions for them, you know.
If we didn't see worth, we wouldn't take the effort.
Right.
And there are games that definitely in our lives we've looked at and have read through and have said, well, this just sucks, and then like forgot about. That's what you do with things that are actual shit, is you forget about it. The only exceptions are the things that are so bad it's the funniest thing you've ever seen. But like, it's just, that's a normal thing. And for something like D&D, where we see potential, we see a lot of people who enjoy it, we want the best thing about it. And I as someone who is in a D&D game, soon to not be in one, but is in a D&D game, like, I do want the core game to be as good as possible. And I want everyone to have a good time with anything they enjoy. But at the end of the day, I also am firmly of the idea that you should just, I don't know, it shouldn't be an issue to also just want to play other games. Like, you should just not hide yourself from the idea of playing other things. It shouldn't be a whole issue of like freely enjoying other stuff. Because even us, who are absolutely married to Pathfinder 2e, we're not even married. It was just a full relationship with tabletop games. Pathfinder's just the favorite, but we have like a list of games we each could make of like our top games, like total, and games that we want to play, and like all this. We both have big lists of games we love because it's just, that's what we enjoy. It's a hobby we enjoy. It's why we promote it so often. Just have other stuff in your life. It's also good. You read through them, brings ideas, gets the creative juices flowing. It's nice to see what good innovations are being made in a nice. It's like playing a bunch of video games. You don't just play the same video game like constantly. And Anima's the best one. Play Anima. The real message you should take home.
Mm-hmm. The real message. That's what this whole chat was about. Play Anima.
Beyond fantasy.
But yeah, I don't know. 2024 is interesting. I think 2024 is going to determine the next year or so of tabletop, because it's either going to be a lot the same and D&D Burnout is just going to keep going, because D&D Burnout is also just building as days go by. It's either going to be really good, which is looking very unlikely at this point, in which case D&D gets saved, or it's just going to divide the D&D community and make people look at other games because they're just like, man, it's just the same thing but twice. I'm going to look at something else because honestly, nothing got fixed. It's just D&D. I don't know. I want what's best for the D&D players. And I will not say that homebrew is bad. It might have been implied as much, but let me reiterate, it's not bad for sure. We're talking more about D&D as a system needing the homebrew rather than the homebrew being a legitimately bad thing or not. There should be homebrew for every tabletop game. It's a game about using your imagination, after all. Yeah, homebrew isn't bad, but it shouldn't be required.
Exactly. It's a fun addition for hyper fans who are so majorly into it that they're creating something for a thing they love. It's not something you need because the game hasn't put out a rules book for like 5 years.
So that's where we'll end it today. I'm sure as we get closer, we're going to talk more about D&D 2024, what's happening. We're definitely going to be talking about Player Core 2. Let's see here, actually. I want to take a look at the calendar because I do think we'll start talking about Player Core 2 3 weeks-ish from now, give or take.
Hey.
That's my roughish estimate. So 3 weeks from now, we'll probably be talking about it a little bit. When we play a little bit more Fabula Ultima, I'd love to actually have a stream talking about Fabula Ultima as well. When we get more of our teeth sunk into it. We played our first full session last week, which was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And we'll have some other things. I'm trying to get the rest of the How of the Wild stuff out before Player Core 2 comes out. And you all know, the second I can post Player Core 2 videos, there'll be a Player Core 2 video every single day. So you all can look forward to that. But before we go, Alex, do you want to leave us with anything?
Much like the last couple weeks, no new video over on my channel, Glue Boy, which is in Cam's YouTube, linked over there, or just look up Glue Boy, you'll find me. But if you're interested in an overview in any of the tabletop games we've mentioned or have mentioned over here, things like Pathfinder 2nd Edition for whatever reason, if you haven't looked into it, Vampire the Masquerade, Lancer, a cool war game known as Trench Crusade.
Yeah, go watch that video. 40K.
I'm very proud of that video. It's done very well.
It's done very well.
Super well. I have a lot of stuff over there. I mainly talk about lore more than anything. So go check that out. My channel, I'll cover all of that. And I will have new videos out starting soon. I'm finally better, and I'm getting back into the swing of it tonight. So go check it out, go sub, go do all that normal YouTube stuff, I guess. Also go look at Trench Crusade, because all the art is beautiful. So that's also the reason you should watch the video. You can watch it on mute if you want. You can just go look at the pretty pictures.
I agree with that sentiment. But yeah, that's going to be it for us. So I guess we'll go ahead and say goodnight.
Good night.
Night.